Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to start an amazing journey into history. We will explore the story of Germany, a story of great power, deep sadness, and incredible hope. Our title for this series is From Iron to Ashes and Back, the German Saga. Please turn on your subtitles if you want to follow the words easily. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more history stories. Now sit back, relax, and let us travel back in time together. Welcome to part 1 of our story, The Iron Foundation. Today, we look at how Germany first became a single strong nation in Europe. Long ago, in the early 19th century, there was no single country called Germany. Instead, there were dozens of small kingdoms, duchies, and free cities. People in these places spoke the German language, but they had different rulers, different laws, and different coins. The two biggest powers among them were Austria and Prussia. Prussia was famous for its strong army and very organized government. Listen carefully to this important name, Otto von Bismarck. Bismarck became the Prime Minister of Prussia in 1862. He was a brilliant politician who believed that speeches and votes would not unite the German people. He famously said that the great questions of the time would be decided by iron and blood. By iron, he meant military weapons and industrial industry. By blood, he meant the sacrifice of soldiers in war. Let us understand how Bismarck used 3 wars to build one nation. First, in 1864, Prussia fought Denmark over northern territories. Prussia won this war quickly and showed its growing military skill. Second, in 1866, Prussia fought its main rival, Austria. Many people thought Austria would win, but Prussia had modern rifles and fast trains. Prussia defeated Austria in just 7 weeks. This victory made Prussia the clear leader of all northern German states. Informative. Third, Bismarck knew he needed a common enemy to bring the southern German states into the group. That enemy was France. In 1870, the Franco-Prussian War began. German people from all different states joined together to fight against France. Prussia and its allies won a decisive victory. In January 1871, a historic event happened inside the famous French palace of Versailles. King Wilhelm I of Prussia was declared the German Emperor, or Kaiser. The German Empire was officially born. Think about how fast this change was for Europe. Suddenly, a giant new power stood right in the center of the European continent. The new German nation grew very fast in population and strength. Factories were built everywhere to make steel, chemicals, and machines. Railways connected every major city, carrying goods and workers quickly. German scientists, engineers, and thinkers became famous all over the world. Remember that this fast growth also created fear among other European countries, like Britain and Russia. They worried that Germany was becoming too powerful for anyone to control. Kaiser Wilhelm II later took control of the country and wanted Germany to have a world empire. He built a massive navy of battleships to challenge Britain on the seas. Remember this tension because it laid the ground for future trouble. The iron foundation of Germany was strong, but the alliance system in Europe was becoming dangerous. Small arguments between nations could now trigger a massive conflict across the continent. The era of peace was coming to an end, and the dark clouds of war were gathering over Europe. This brings us to the end of our first chapter on the rise of the German nation. Welcome to Part 2, The Great Fire. In this section, we see how the great empire entered a terrible war and faced a painful fall. In July 1914, a crisis started in the Balkan region when an Austrian prince was killed. Because of secret treaties, nations began declaring war on each other one by one. Germany supported Austria, while Russia, France, and Britain stood on the other side. Within weeks, World War I began, bringing unprecedented destruction to the continent. Imagine millions of young men marching to war with songs and flags, expecting to be home by Christmas. But modern weapons like machine guns, heavy artillery, and poison gas changed war completely. Soldiers built long trenches in the mud, from the Swiss border all the way to the sea. For 4 long years, soldiers lived in horrible conditions inside these deep dirt ditches. Millions of soldiers lost their lives for just a few meters of muddy ground. Inside Germany, ordinary citizens suffered terribly as well. British ships blocked German ports, preventing food and supplies from entering the country. Winters were freezing, and people had to eat turnips instead of bread and potatoes. This period was called the Turnip Winter, and many civilians died from hunger and illness. By 1918, the German military was exhausted, and workers began to protest in the streets. Kaiser Wilhelm II was forced to give up his throne and leave the country. On November 11, 1918, the fighting finally stopped. The war was over, but Germany was completely heartbroken and economically ruined. Let us now look at the peace treaty that followed. In 1919, the winning nations met in France to write the Treaty of Versailles. This treaty punished Germany very severely. Germany lost a large portion of its land and all of its overseas colonies. Its army was cut down to a tiny force, and it was forbidden to have warplanes or submarines. Most importantly, Germany was forced to take total blame for starting the war and pay huge sums of money. Many German citizens felt this treaty was unfair and deeply humiliating. Out of this sadness, a new democracy was born, called the Weimar Republic. The new government tried hard to build a peaceful society, but it faced giant problems from the start. In 1923, Germany suffered from extreme hyperinflation. Money lost its value so fast that people needed wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy a single loaf of bread. Children played with stacks of useless money in the streets like building blocks. Notice how these hard economic times made people lose trust in democratic leaders. Later in the 1920s, the economy improved for a few short years with American loans. Art, music, and science flourished in cities like Berlin during this brief, bright period. However, this stability was fragile and did not last long. In 1929, the Great Depression hit the world, and German factories shut down once again. Millions of people lost their jobs and could not feed their families. Desperate people began looking for extreme solutions to solve their problems. This economic crisis set the stage for one of the darkest periods in human history. Welcome to Part 3, Into the Deepest Dark. We now cover the tragic chapter of total war and extreme cruelty. During the terrible economic crisis of the early 1930s, a radical political group gained power. This was the Nazi Party, led by Adolf Hitler. Hitler promised to fix the economy, restore national pride, and destroy the Treaty of Versailles. Pay attention to how democracy was destroyed from within. In 1933, Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. Very quickly, the regime removed freedom of speech, banned opposition parties, and took total control of society. Large public parades and powerful propaganda were used to control how people thought and acted. Hitler began rebuilding the army in secret, violating international agreements. In 1939, Germany invaded Poland, starting World War II in Europe. Using fast military tactics called blitzkrieg, German armies quickly conquered much of mainland Europe. But behind the war effort lay an organized plan of extreme cruelty and violence. The Nazi government held deeply hateful ideas about racial superiority. They targeted Jewish people, Romani people, disabled individuals, and political opponents. Laws were passed that removed basic human rights from Jewish citizens step by step. Eventually, this hatred led to the Holocaust, the systematic murder of 6 million Jewish people. Innocent men, women, and children were taken in trains to concentration camps across Europe. This remains one of the most painful and tragic historical events in human history. In 1941, Germany made a massive mistake by invading the Soviet Union. The war in the East was brutal, freezing, and cost millions of lives on both sides. At the same time, the United States joined the war against Germany after Pearl Harbor. Germany was now fighting giant powers on multiple fronts at the same time. Observe how the war turned completely against Germany. In 1943, the German army suffered a catastrophic defeat at the Battle of Stalingrad. From that point on, Allied forces pushed German troops back from the east and the west. Allied bombers dropped thousands of bombs on German cities night and day. Beautiful old cities like Dresden, Hamburg, and Berlin were turned into piles of burning rubble. The infrastructure was destroyed, and millions of civilian refugees became homeless refugees. In May 1945, Adolf Hitler took his own life inside his underground bunker. Germany surrendered unconditionally to the Allied powers, ending the war in Europe. The country that sought to rule Europe was now completely broken, divided, and reduced to ashes. This was the absolute lowest point in the long history of the German nation.
Welcome to Part 4, A Nation Broken in Two. After World War II, Germany was divided into two completely different worlds. The four victorious Allied powers, the United States, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union, divided Germany into 4 zones. The capital city of Berlin, located deep inside the Soviet zone, was also split into 4 pieces. Soon, differences arose between the Western democratic nations and the Soviet communist system. Watch how one nation was pulled apart by 2 superpower ideals. In 1949, the 3 Western zones combined to form the Federal Republic of Germany, known as West Germany. West Germany adopted a democratic system with a free market economy. In the same year, the Soviet zone became the German Democratic Republic, known as East Germany. East Germany was ruled by a communist government closely controlled by Moscow. Families, friends, and neighbors were suddenly separated by strict national borders. West Germany rebuilt quickly with financial aid from the United States under the Marshall Plan. Factories were rebuilt with modern machines, and the economy grew at an incredible speed. This economic success became famous as the economic miracle, or Wirtschaftswunder. People in West Germany enjoyed high living standards, modern cars, and freedom of choice. In contrast, East Germany struggled under a strict planned economy with frequent product shortages. Notice the growing divide between the two sides of the same nation. Life in East Germany was closely monitored by a powerful secret police force called the Stasi. The Stasi kept detailed files on millions of citizens using thousands of secret informers. Anyone who spoke out against the government faced arrest or loss of their job. Because conditions were hard, millions of East Germans fled to the West through the open city of Berlin. Between 1949 and 1961, over 2 million smart young workers escaped to the West. To stop this massive loss of people, the East German government took a sudden and drastic step. On August 13, 1961, soldiers began building a high wall right through the middle of Berlin. The Berlin Wall was built with concrete, barbed wire, guard towers, and armed soldiers. Imagine waking up one morning to find a giant wall blocking your street, keeping you away from family. The wall became the ultimate symbol of the Cold War between East and West. For almost 30 years, people who tried to jump over the wall were shot by border guards. Germany remained a divided land, waiting for a chance to become whole again.
Welcome to Part 5, The Fall and the Reunion. Today, we look at the incredible moment when the wall fell and Germany came back together. By the late 1980s, big political changes were blowing across Eastern Europe. The new Soviet leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, introduced reforms for more openness and restructuring. People in East European nations began demanding democracy and freedom. Pay attention to how peaceful protest changed history without firing a single bullet. In 1989, citizens in East German cities like Leipzig started organizing peaceful demonstrations. Every Monday evening, tens of thousands of people marched through the streets, holding candles. They shouted two simple but powerful words: "We are the people." At the same time, neighboring countries like Hungary opened their borders with the West. Thousands of East German tourists used this new route to escape to West Germany. The East German government lost control of the situation as pressure mounted every day. On the evening of November 9, 1989, an East German official held a live press conference. He announced that travel restrictions for East German citizens were being lifted immediately. Imagine the reaction of the crowd hearing this news on television and radio. Within hours, thousands of East Berliners rushed to the border checkpoints at the Berlin Wall. The confused border guards, having received no clear orders, decided to open the gates. People from East and West Berlin fell into each other's arms, crying tears of pure joy. They climbed on top of the wall, danced, and began chipping away at the concrete with hammers. The hated Berlin Wall, which had divided the city for 28 years, was finally down. Less than a year later, on October 3, 1990, Germany was officially reunified as one single country. This historic day is celebrated every year as German Unity Day. Consider the massive task that faced the reunited country. The economic system of East Germany had to be completely rebuilt to match West German standards. Roads, bridges, telephone lines, and factories in the East needed urgent modernization. The process cost billions of euros and took decades of hard work and patience. There were also social challenges, as people from the East and West had lived under very different systems for 40 years. But despite all these difficulties, the dream of a single peaceful German nation was finally reality. Welcome to Part 6, the final chapter of our series, The Modern Giant. We now look at Germany's role in the world today. Rising from the complete ashes of World War II, Germany transformed itself into one of the most stable and successful nations on Earth. Today, Germany has the largest economy in Europe and the fourth largest in the whole world. German engineering and manufacturing are famous worldwide for high quality and reliability. Think of famous brands like Volkswagen, BMW, Siemens, and SAP that operate across the world. Germany is often called the economic engine of the European Union. It plays a central leadership role in helping keep the 27 member nations united and stable. Instead of using military power, modern Germany uses diplomatic skill and economic strength to influence global events. Let us look at how Germany faces modern global challenges. In recent years, Germany has taken a leading role in fighting global climate change. The country started a major energy policy change to move away from nuclear power and fossil fuels. Today, a large portion of Germany's electricity comes from clean sources like wind power and solar energy. German cities are known for high recycling rates, clean public transport, and green urban spaces. Germany has also shown deep social responsibility on the international stage. In 2015, Germany opened its doors to over 1 million refugees fleeing war in Syria and other countries. While this decision brought political debates, it highlighted Germany's commitment to humanitarian values. Reflect on how much this country has changed over the past 150 years. Germany went from a group of separate states through two devastating world wars to a divided Cold War frontline. Yet today, it stands as a peaceful, democratic, and welcoming nation in the heart of Europe. The story of Germany proves that even after total destruction, a nation can rebuild itself with hard work and peace. Thank you so much for joining us on this long journey through From Iron to Ashes and Back, the German Saga. If you enjoyed learning with us, please share this series with your friends and leave your thoughts in the comments. Keep practicing your English listening skills and see you next time for another incredible history adventure.